I was walking through the office. I passed his desk. I said, "Do you think that the internet has hurt or has expanded the church more or hurt the church more?" Now, I'm not one. Look, we're broadcasting this show on the internet currently, so I'm not one to say that we shouldn't be using the internet. I'm just the
Right. Yeah.
question that I'm asking is: has it been more detrimental or more of a blessing to the church? And the fact is that people today think that if they want to find something out, where do they go? They go to the
Yeah.
internet.
My wife said yesterday, she said, Google is people's God.
Exactly.
They don't go to God. My wife said, I was just like, my jaw dropped. It's like, I'm like, you're right on. Like, people think they'll just Google something, and then she's like, I'm afraid, that we're training people to not seek the Lord.
Let me tell you something. If I need to know something, if I want to write anything down, I go to a book. I go to a book. And if I'm going to go to the internet, if I am going to go to the internet, if I'm going to cite something from the internet, the person usually has to have a pretty darn good publishing record. You know what I mean? In other words, if I go to the internet,
You have to, right? You have to start somewhere.
And I find like a quote from N.T. Wright that I know is published in one of his books, but I find it on the internet. Okay, I can quote that, right? Or a paper that he's written on the internet. Why? Because N.T. Wright is a well-known scholar who has a corpus of books that have been published and has been tried and true through the rigors of
and he's
scholarship.
Been immersed in the apostolic writings in the original language for decades.
That doesn't mean I agree with
decades.
him.
Exactly. Decades. But he's a laborer who has gone before us.
Right. But if I find Joe Schmo on the internet, right? And this is where social media comes in to this whole conversation. If I find somebody on the internet who just says, XYZ is true. The problem that we have today is that people say, oh, look, this person has 150,000 followers. They must be right. And the problem is that the people with the most followers are usually the people. I'm not across the board, but you got.
Wait a minute. Shouldn't we correlate what you're talking about with the I don't remember what the article was. There was an article about heresy in the church, and it was just like leaven in the bread, right? I mean, it was like 80% or 85% of self-identified, American Christians hold to heretical views. So wouldn't those work together?
Yeah.
If you've got and some of those could be really skilled in digital marketing, or social media.
Yeah. Once again, I need to be very clear here. Look, I'm all for certain forms of social media as long as it's used properly. There are some great follows that I have on Twitter. Some great follows that I have on Twitter. And I love, like edifying. I think that it's spiritually edifying what these guys are putting on Twitter. Facebook, not so much. I think that, but everybody has their own favorite. But I guess the point is that what you have a platform where anyone and everyone is given.
You know what? I don't really. I post on Facebook, but I don't read other people's posts.
I can't.
For the great majority,
I can't be on Facebook anymore. And I mean,
now our local community has a private Facebook group that we use. But that's different.
I guess the point for me is that what you do with social media is you give everyone the microphone. And that sounds like a great thing. But think about this in terms of church. If your pastor stood up in front of church and said, now we're going to let anybody come on up and give their feelings on the sermon today, what would happen in church? What would happen in your community? Now, I know there's a lot of open communities where you can raise your hand and talk and whatnot. I'm not necessarily saying that that's a bad thing, but it's usually at least governed by the elders of the church, right? In other words, there's still structure. There's still some form of, we hold to this theology and we're going to be looking at this text through this theological lens. On the internet, there's none of that. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button and check out more videos from Messiah Matters.